Story 1. I am not a woman, but I have heard it said that in dating, women are looking for a drink of water in a swamp, and men are looking for a drink of water in a desert. Both are difficult, but for different reasons. Story 2. It is easier to find meaningless flings. I would say it is pretty difficult to find anything serious or long-term, but I do not have a lot of perspective from men looking for that, so I am not comfortable flat out saying it is more or less difficult. Story 3. For just a casual encounter? Yes. For anything actually involving a long-lasting relationship with fulfilling emotional and physical needs? Terrible. It also feels fairly unsafe at times with certain dates. Story 4. Women receive more attention than men, but most of the time, that attention has only one goal and nothing more. Story 5. I am not conventionally attractive, but if I were even just a little, I imagine I would have an easier time. I am essentially invisible to the opposite sex, which is frustrating, but I cannot make someone become interested in me. Story 6. Easier to get dates, much scarier to go on them, worried about safety, and it is hard to find basic respect. Story 7. I do not know any man who gave information about the date to a friend just to be safe. I did that for every date. Story 8. I'm bisexual, but if I put that on a dating site, all the women who contact me ask if I would be interested in a threesome with them and their partner. I have not had many awful experiences, but it has been hard to find anyone to get to a second date with. Honestly, I think online dating is difficult for everyone. Meeting at a bar, park, or through friend groups allows you to get a feel for a person and their interests while meeting for the first time. Online, everyone is evaluated based on their looks and history, turning dating into job interviews relationship edition. This also means the first date is often as uncomfortable as a job interview. Story 9. I'm a woman, and I rarely get male attention. On dating apps, I get some matches but don't get asked on dates and barely have ongoing conversations. I guess I'm not the norm. However, I also think it's subjective. Some people, regardless of their gender, have an easier time dating than others. Story 10. I think it would be very easy for me as a woman to have casual sex with almost anyone. However, finding a partner is a completely different and much more difficult task. Since I want a partner and not just sex, I have decided to stop dating altogether for now. It would be like having a part-time job to sift through all the unsuitable people and dinners just to find someone decent. And would they like me if I even like them? My life is already very busy, so no thanks. Maybe I will watch Netflix alone or go visit a friend instead. This also shows why men have a hard time finding women to date. Many women are no longer interested, so the pool of women is very small, while the pool of men to choose from is much larger. Story 11. As a woman who dates women, the pursuit is very challenging because I have been conditioned to be pursued. I am also tired of a lifetime of being objectified against my will, and I never want anyone to feel that way if I can avoid it. Dating men is easy. Even when I have been the one to pursue a man, it is not as rewarding as the effort to date a woman. It is easier to have sex with cisgender men and have them come back for more. Having sex with women requires communication and moving past default expectations. Story 12. It is easier now, but if I am still single over around 40 years old or become not conventionally attractive for any reason, I am guessing it will be harder to find something serious and committed. Story 13. As a man who is considered dating both men and women, try this. Get on a dating app and set it to men and women. Then look at the quality of profiles you see and the kinds of messages you receive. No spoilers, but I do not think it will take long for you to come to a conclusive answer. Story 14. Easier. Not easy, but it's like this. Both men and women can be toxic. Both men and women can and do lie about who they are to get someone, a common behavior of neurotypical people in general. Therefore, if we get 100 men talking to us a week and they all only want to use us, while a man gets one conversation with a woman every blue moon and she isn't nice, or whatever, it sucks to be objectified, but at least I don't feel like a hideous troll beast. At least I can go, men just want to have sex with me and not actually like me as a person. That's awful to be dehumanized like that, but at least I feel desired. Meanwhile, men are like, wow, women think I'm a hideous troll beast and also don't like me as a person. Then we can look at numbers. When studying humans in general, men are more overt in abuse while women are more covert. But I don't think either gender wins at being more or less abusive. We just see male abuse more because it's easier to see and document a black eye than to explain and prove gaslighting, for example. Therefore, if I get 100 men to chat with a week, statistically, at least some of them won't be abusive. If I take time to talk to all of them nicely, use my brain to figure out who is toxic without being brash or rude, like, we can't just screech, "Are you abusive?" This will scare away even the best of men. With the amount of options I have, I never had a moment where another man wasn't waiting in line. I'm attractive, so that helps. Once I figure out a man is safe, I can see if we click as people, and if we don't, there's another 100 men lined up waiting for their turn to talk with me. The problem is, too many toxic encounters can cause us to become traumatized and defensive. Like, after 30 different men go, "Can I ask you a question?" And they all ask, "How big are your breasts?" It's natural for any human to assume the next man who asks this will say the same dumb thing, so we form patterns. Then, as humans, we can often erroneously apply them. The next man's question might have been, "Do you like cheese?" We don't know. Pattern recognition is in all of us and can be wrong. We have to weigh consequences. Like, if I trust the wrong man in real life, I could be harmed, but I won't roll over and die if the next man also goes, "How big are your breasts?" Therefore, we need to exercise logic on apps rather than responding with knee-jerk reactions. However, there is such a thing as compound trauma and psychological or emotional harm we experience when interacting with too many toxic people. Therefore, talking to too many men like next can be very harmful. Mental health breaks are very important. Therefore, overall, dating is easier if one is an attractive woman. For unattractive women, I can only guess. I suppose it could be very traumatizing to be targeted as something the man also mocks and finds ugly, like EW, but I'm horny and any opportunity is a goal. That would seriously destroy a woman's self-worth and cause extreme trauma, dissociation, self-loathing, and so forth. Despite what men who don't have sex claim, men are people just like women are, and men would also be traumatized if they're loathed by a woman and only used as a human object. Imagine having sex with a woman and she is disgusted, insults your body, mocks you, and hides you from others. Men often bury trauma and act like everything is fine, then explode years later. We all hurt the same ways. If a man is attractive, he has more options. If a man has success in the world, money, status, and so on, he has more options. Tall men have more options than short men. People lie all the time and accidentally gaslight the lived experiences of others. Men deny what women say, women deny what men say because we all take it personally. Like, a man saying women do this means he's saying I do it, but actually he's just expressing a pattern he has experienced with women in general. Same as when women say men do this, men will take that personally instead of understanding it's just a pattern experienced from men overall. Truth bomb. Yes, we care about a man being fair, competent, kind, and so on, but obviously we also care about looks to a certain level. We say things to be kind like, "Oh, I'd date Shrek if he was kind to me." But we all know that isn't true because lots of kind, unattractive men are rejected and stay completely unwanted. Obviously, looks matter to all humans because we date with our primitive brain. Offspring we produce carry the genes of both parents and can't be chosen. Like, a hot, voluptuous woman mating with an unattractive, intelligent man may produce unattractive, voluptuous children. We don't get to cherry pick, so the kids are born both attractive and intelligent. So yeah, it's difficult for many people and easier for some. That's life. Story 15. Easier to have casual relationships. Harder and certainly more dangerous to find a compatible, committed, long-term partner. Story 16. I think it is equal, but some men make it unequal. They go the extra mile to plan dates, create romance, show off, and make you feel wanted. It works, but I do not think they realize that not every man does that. There are men who are not interested that much, and if I want to go out with them, I need to be the one playing chaser and planner. Story 17. Unpopular opinion, but I will speak from experience. Men really make dating much harder for themselves than it needs to be. A clean, well-dressed man who knows himself, has some emotional intelligence, and can have some fun will have no problem finding women who are interested in him. Being tall, attractive, fit, and having money improves those odds even more and might draw more attention from tall, attractive, fit, and financially privileged women. However, the qualities I mentioned earlier will have women literally lining up for your attention. Signed, a man who was tall, attractive, and fit but a total mess with no emotional intelligence. I became bald and gained weight, but cleaned up my act, worked on my mental health, and got more attention from women in my 40s than I ever got in my 20s. I was broke the whole time regardless. Story 18. The dating phase is harder for men. The settling down and lifelong phase is harder for women, especially if children are involved, because women usually end up doing more work overall. Story 19. All the top answers seem to imply that getting a long-term partner who respects them is much easier for men than it is for women. If only. Story 20. It is not hard to get initial interest, but it is hard to find a man who is likable and aware of misogyny, and who works to dispel it in his own worldview. Story 21. I feel like men are less discouraged by bad experiences, or maybe it is just me. In general, I am too sensitive, so I stop trying because things upset me too much. I also feel that men will accept basically any female who is acceptable, whereas for me, hardly any men are actually attractive. Story 22. It is easier for women to date. It is harder for them to secure a similarly caring partner, someone who sometimes puts their partner before themselves, who is comfortable with commitment without feeling like they are missing out, which is a common motivator for infidelity by year 7. Story 23. It was very easy for me to get matches, dates, and the occasional hookups. It took me more than a year of online dating to find someone I wanted to be in a relationship with. Story 24. Get your pitchforks ready. Truly unattractive men are treated worse than dirt. They don't even exist as real men to women at best unless they have something to compensate for it. And even then, nothing is guaranteed. Most men will forgive a woman for being unattractive and still be lenient with them simply because they are women. I have never met an unattractive woman who did not have at least one person showing interest in her. The assumption that unattractive men do not notice women's struggles because they only pay attention to women they desire is false. You can keep lying if you want to. I will not. And no, it is not just about sex either. Story 25. I have always liked casual sex and dating with different men at the same time. This has always been easy and fun for me, but I do experience a lot of bitterness and hate for it too. Even so, I think dating is much easier for me than it is for men because I get approached much more often. Story 26. It is surprising that some people say women have a harder time finding a lifetime partner. That claim is not accurate. Men need to have their lives organized first, including education and career, before considering finding a wife. Most men are not ready for marriage until their mid-30s. Women do face challenges in dating, but finding a lifetime partner is not typically one of them. The majority of men are single, while the majority of women are not. That is a fact. Story 27. Both men and women have to deal with many difficult people, including those trying to take advantage of them. Women also have to worry about their safety much more often. Story 28. I'm not a man, but I do feel women have it harder in many ways. As a man, dating pretty much comes down to one thing. Will the other person like me or not? That other person may be someone you've approached online or in person, someone you've managed to set up a date with, or someone you haven't even approached yet. The only real risk you're taking is dealing with rejection and how that may make you feel. That's it for the overwhelming majority of men. If they like me, great, all's well. If they don't, you probably get bummed about it, but it's not the end of the world unless you make it out to be. Women also have to deal with this. People think they don't because men tend to be the active parties in dating, the ones who initiate, so they assume that women can just wait until the right one falls into their lap and say yes. On a surface level, that's something that can and does happen. But what women also have to consider is what happens in the bad case scenario. The bad case scenario isn't just being rejected and feeling down, it's being killed. Men are dangerous and women are vulnerable. The average man can fairly easily overpower and harm the average woman. This isn't some crazy hypothetical scenario like an insane murderer breaking into a house. It is something almost all women have had to deal with many times or have come dangerously close to. Seemingly normal men who have stalked them, threatened them, prevented them from leaving a place, touched them without consent, tried to force them to have sex, gotten angry at rejection, or reacted inappropriately in all these bad ways. The problem is that there aren't any great solutions for this. Even self-defense classes or weapons can only do so much, and of course, it's not nice to always be in a constant state of fear that the person in front of you can suddenly decide to harm or kill you. Many women are abused, harmed, and killed by men. That is something men simply don't worry about and don't have to. Cases where the opposite happens are so rare that most men likely do not worry about their actual safety when considering whether they should talk to someone at a bar. But you can bet most women are having those thoughts when they see someone walking up to them, which is why many women may seem cold or reject most people who approach them. Story 29. Married now, but when I was single it was super easy to find people interested, yet very hard to find the right fit. Story 30. I feel like it's probably equally bad for both, for different reasons. Earlier in the summer, I met a man online, chatted over several days, and had plans for a date on a Friday night. On Thursday, I had an evening meeting for work. I saw a text from him that he had sent an hour before. I quickly texted back that I was on my way to a meeting and put my phone back in my bag. I got home 2 hours later. It was a very long day and a very long week. I took a shower, made a sandwich, turned on my show, put up my feet, and got my phone out. The texts from this man, whose last name I do not even know, were wild. I blocked him and deleted my profile. These men treat you like dirt before they even know you, and I am over it. Story 31. Everything is easier for attractive men. Dating, finding life partners, just everything. Some of the biggest pieces of nonsense I have ever met were physically attractive men who treated women poorly. Story 32. Women under 35 have it easier. Women over 35 have it harder. This is due to the gender ratio at birth and male mortality rates. Story 33. Since this thread has moved into a more general discussion, as a man, I did not have many problems finding dates on dating applications. I learned early on that if you feel like you are being fake, you are doing it wrong. Find a way to present yourself that feels genuine and speak to people around whom you do not feel the need to be fake. Lastly, hold yourself to a high standard and carry yourself with the confidence of upholding that standard. Story 34. It is easy to get attention. I get approached all the time. It is very difficult to find someone who has the qualities I want in a partner. The bar for men is pretty low as it is. I like to be treated well, expect emotional maturity, and the ability to communicate. That can be hard to find, especially considering chemistry does not always click, even with good qualities. Story 35. The worst case for a man is rejection. The worst case for a woman is assault or death. This is not a valid comparison. The original poster is only seeking attention. Story 36. Posting my comment and expanding on it. Setting aside the high rate of violence against women, such as my sister being beaten unconscious after a date because she declined to let him come inside, women have a hard time finding men who actually walk the talk on treating them as trustworthy, intelligent individuals. From a woman's perspective, we have very different ideas from many men, not necessarily you personally, about who we're pursuing and how reasonable it is consistently. It's very frustrating because we clearly state what we want, and men say, "No, you don't." On the whole, we don't look for attractive men as default partners. We joke about and admire attractive men like men do hot women. We don't seek them out. They tend to be douches. We want decency, empathy, feminism, positivity, someone who doesn't need a woman to complete their life or feel denied if they don't have one. Men who don't want a default caretaker or a woman as a therapist, someone with their own hobbies and friends. So we find it disconcerting when men say, "These standards are insane." Which part? Many men then invent imaginary standards we don't have to excuse why we're avoiding them, because the idea they don't meet these criteria is inconceivable. Their height, they're too good of a guy, they're not in the top 1% in looks, etc. Most of the men I've met online and in person who complain that women overlook emotionally intelligent, loyal, interesting, average-looking men because they're not tall or deeply emotionally immature, unconsciously griping all the time about women and other men, believe the concept of empathy was invented when they got high at 27, and think that any critique is because people just don't grasp their insight yet. They constantly tell women what women really want, imply women are untrustworthy or superficial, and that feminism has gone too far this time. Over specific? Sadly, no. So we tend to find those complaints very much a red flag because it falls very close to, no matter what women tell me otherwise, I know what they really want. It feels like I have to constantly be on my guard with these men, like dates are about checking for this unspoken weirdness. Story 37. Considering that most relationships consist of one man and one woman, the level of difficulty in forming a relationship is roughly equal for both men and women. The specific challenges, however, differ. Men might feel discouraged by a lack of attention, but the women who engage with them are likely interested in a relationship. On the other hand, for an attractive woman, for every one man who is genuinely a good dating partner, there are probably 100 who would pursue her only for casual encounters. Sorting through men who are feigning interest can be as frustrating and lonely as receiving no interest at all. Story 38. Easier to get attention, harder to find genuine connection. The options are available, but the quality is not always satisfactory. Story 39. Every reply from a woman saying dating is very hard gets downvoted, and men keep complaining. However, I know a bunch of great women who gave up on dating. They are amazing, have good lives, but no luck. I do not know any single man who can match them. Sadness. Story 40. Dating is hard. Why are you looking for someone to go out with? Cultivate an interest or hobby that is social and go do that. Meet people, things happen. Story 41. Dating is harder for women unless you are just looking to get laid by someone who will sleep with anyone. It is very easy to get attention as a woman. Trying to find someone worthy of building a genuine relationship with is hard. Most men are not looking for it. There are very few attractive, stable, successful men who have worked on their emotional intelligence and availability. I am not talking about being 6 feet tall, earning 6 figures, or having a six-pack. Just normal men looking for normal things, and they are rarely single for long. There are many more women who have their lives together looking for relationships than men, and that makes it harder. Story 42. It is much harder as a woman. If you are a man and a woman is interested, you pretty much know she is interested in you. If you are a woman and a man is interested, you have no clue if he is just looking for a one-night stand, hooking up for a couple of months, or a long-term relationship. Men often complain about how much easier it is for them to get likes or have flings. They do not consider how meaningless likes can be or that someone might not be looking for a fling. Story 43. Women face greater dangers in dating. As a sociological researcher, I would say that even good men tend to underestimate the risks women encounter and the number of predatory men out there. Both anecdotally and statistically, more than half of young men are comfortable bypassing consent or using manipulative psychological traits to coerce women into sex. A large percentage of men would commit abusive behaviors against women if they believed they would not be caught. Every woman I know has been raped. Men also face challenges, especially if they are shy or considered below average in appearance. I will not say unattractive because beauty is subjective. Some women I know who are conventionally attractive have dated men regarded as less attractive by society. However, men who say dating is harder for their gender often only consider how quickly a date can be acquired, not the actual quality or safety of the person. Story 44. Women have to put substantially more effort into being safe on a date than men do. It seems like a straightforward question to answer. Story 45. An easier time finding dates, a harder time in general. Men do not face the same safety concerns while dating that women do. As a woman, I have never struggled to find potential romantic partners. However, I have encountered deeply misogynistic men who have prioritized their sexual desires over my comfort and safety. I have dated a man for a few months only to discover he had previously sexually assaulted women. I have also experienced the consequences of pornography addiction in many modern men and how that has led to the normalization of violent behavior in the bedroom. Story 46. Women tend to be more straightforward in dating. If she is having sex with you, then she is probably interested in having a relationship with you. With men, you never really know what he is thinking, at least for the first 6 months. Eventually, it becomes clear. He may say things he does not mean, tell you one thing and then do something else, leave things ambiguous or love bomb and then suddenly change his mind. It is harder for women to build a relationship if that is what they want, whereas men get to decide when to engage in that way. Story 47. Straight women seem to get more attention for sure, but most of those people need to be turned away, so it probably evens out. I am a lesbian, and it feels like a desert where I live. Story 48. Harder because my dating pool is essentially a muddy puddle. I am asexual, lesbian, child-free, atheist, South Asian, and very left-leaning. Story 49. It is hard to tell the difference between time wasters. Then there are the transactional nice guys who put in low effort and have poor communication. There is also the threat of physical harm. Additionally, if you are not quick to hook up, they do not stick around. Story 50. I think a big disconnect here is many men are assuming women experience things the way they think they would themselves in our shoes and misinterpret why women do the things they do. They think we are playing who has it worse every time women speak up about something that places any responsibility whatsoever on men's behavior. They have decided what the factors are based on their own distant perceptions of what women are thinking and doing. They see women avoiding them and decide it is because women have found something better. After all, most men feel an urgency and bitterness toward having a relationship. They are told it validates them as men and is how they will receive primary physical, sexual, and emotional care. Women must be reveling in the attention of men, pursuing them the way men would women. Women are not going to other men. I do not know if this comes from the idea men would trade out for a better woman if they could, but we generally do not care about having relationships. The benefits are minimal. Half the time we get to be caretaker, therapist, and object to a pouting grown man who insists he is the height of intellect and emotional intelligence. A Pew Research Center study found twice as many single women as single men are completely disinterested in seeking a relationship. That number skyrockets as they get older. We are not with other men. We just are not with you. And we are not taking anything away from you by not being with you. Why are we not with you? Look at this comment section. Cynicism, veiled and unveiled misogyny, complaining loudly about women like they are runaway dogs, claiming they have done everything that women never asked them to do, not speaking up when other men mistreat women. What a delight to be around. I am baffled why they do not want you either. When women say, "This is why we do this," many men say, "No, it is not. I know why women do things better than women do." So from women's perspective, we are dealing with men who do not particularly like us, trust us, and think we are something they are rewarded with for good behavior. I just had a man rant at me in these comments that he knows it is about height no matter what I say. Many men talk about women's own dating behavior with absolutely zero acknowledgement of sexual violence, showing callousness and doubt behind it. They prioritize complaining about how women getting hung up on violence gets in the way of women getting with them, how women should blindly take that risk for them personally because they are good guys. No empathy, it does not even cross their minds to address this, until they go off on a rant about how women probably abuse men too, or another unrelated, defensive ramble to derail and bully, exhaust them into silence. Every time, you do not like women, you do not respect women, you want women. A family member of mine was beaten bloody and raped when she politely declined to let her date come in. He beat her while ranting that women think they can have it all and get away with anything. Men like that grow from men like these. A 16-year-old family member went on one of her first dates, and he locked her in his house and abused her for 4 hours. Men who tell me they have special clarity into the real motivations of women are stumped when I ask them why, when women get angry at men, we do not go out and beat them to death with a brick. Because men killing women out of spite is an epidemic. Family annihilators are a suspect profile reserved almost exclusively for men. 90% are men. When upset by their partner, they kill their wife and children. Women generally do not kill their partners. Men tell me they do not know any rapists, yet I know 7. But everyone has it bad, as I am sure I will be immediately reminded. Women are so privileged to be women. Yes, we are definitely trying to win a pity game with you, not navigate constant uncertainty. I have never seen men talk about the valid concern of men being abused by men and women unless it is to convince everyone that it is provably not equal in severity and prevalence to women, so we should stop bringing abuse up altogether. Every men's issues group I have joined to support was just an onslaught of claiming women are in a cabal of faking their sexual abuse and that women are just swimming in the benefits of being women. We are not looking for tall men. We are interested in decent, empathetic men. And many of you are not nearly as decent and empathetic as you have convinced yourselves. Story 51. Ask men what the worst thing that could happen to them on a date is, and they'll say she isn't attractive in person or they just didn't get along. Guess what the answer is from any woman? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.